In this video tutorial, we are going to discuss about Android architecture. So many of them are talking about Android hardware, Android software, Android application switches. To do this, to develop the application or to install the application, we need a setup, right? That setup design has been fixed by this Android architecture. Okay, so this architecture gives the picture about the whole view of the development as well as the components of Android OS. So as a part of mobile operating system, so one among the frequently and then one among the widely used operating system is Android. So this Android operating system can be viewed in developer perspective and then user perspective. Again, developer in the sense application developer and operating system developer. Okay, so here this environment should give different space for the different level of end users, right? So that kind of architecture which is provided by the Android architecture. Okay, so Android deals with 5 layered architecture. Okay, the bottommost is the Linux kernel layer. So as we know that Android is derived from Linux operating system, so the Linux kernel is the base of the Android architecture. Then the second layer is the libraries. Okay, so these libraries are predefined functions or predefined set of rules and codes which is set on the top of the Linux kernel. In simple, this Linux kernel operations are make use of these libraries. Okay, that is the second layer. Then the third layer is application framework. So this application framework is used to manage all the activities in the perspective of developers. Okay, so here the developers who are developing a new specification or a new feature into the Android operating system, so that will be incorporated inside this application framework. So using this framework, the end user, that is application developers, they can make use of it and then they can develop their own. Okay, see, for example, in the application layer framework, so if you take the latest version of mobile phones, especially Android operating system, right? So you can able to see the widely used sensors. Okay, proximity sensor is there, accelerometer sensor, and the different version of hardware has its own version of its software. Okay, these frameworks has been incorporated to use this. See, this sensors will be used by various different applications, right? So that application will invoke this managers, right? So these are providers. Okay, then the next layer is application layer. So it is the topmost layer of the Android architecture, so where all the applications has been installed, right? So now if you want to use the application, right, so it is visible to the user. See, all the other 3 or all the other 4 layers are not visible or hidden, right? To do this, right, so here the application layers, right, the ultimate aim is, if you want to work anything in the mobile, if you want to add a new feature, you need to install the application, right? If that application need to work, the application framework support is needed. Again, this framework is rendering the support from the libraries, with connecting with the hardware layer, that is the kernel layer, right? And then the last layer is the Android runtime. So here, this Android runtime, which is pretty different. So here, Android Studio is a framework, right? So if you want to develop a Android application, right, it is not involvement of a single programming language, right? So for designing, we will be using XML language, right? For scripting, we'll be using Java over there. Again, for database connectivity, you'll be using SQLite. Many different dimensions of code need to be compiled and need to be executed in a single environment. So that is taken care by the Android runtime, right? So which is going to take care the execution of the code that we are developing. Okay, so these are the 5 important layers of an Android architecture. So now we will discuss in detail about each and every layer, right? So the bottommost layer or the basic essential layer, that is the Linux kernel. So this manages all the hardware operations, right? So here, if you want to manage the hardware, right, memory management, process management, right, security, so these are all the core essential which is with part of the hardware, so which is managed by the Linux kernel. Okay, so all the drivers, the supporting for the hardware. See, the hardware, in the sense, if you take a mobile, it consists of a processor, it consists of a communication shield, it consists of different types of sensors. Okay, so everything need to be operated in a single environment. See, let's say each and every module, see, for example, Bluetooth communication, Wi-Fi communication. In your mobile, Bluetooth communication will be there, Wi-Fi communication will be there, your mobile core processor, it will be there, your different types of sensors will be there, right? So let's say if you are buying a Samsung mobile, okay, so now Samsung is the company. It is not that all the parts which is used for that particular mobile or belongs to the Samsung company. Okay, many different companies were involved to produce different parts. All the spare parts are connected together to form one Samsung mobile. So now this communication shield, and then Bluetooth communication shield, Wi-Fi communication shield, processors, everything need to be run in a single environment, which is going to be part of the Linux kernel. Okay, then the next layer, that is the native libraries. So the native libraries, which are the libraries which is predefinedly available in the operating system itself. There are few libraries when the developer, they can code themselves, they can create themselves, and then they can add it. Other than that, there are predefined libraries. See, for example, font management, 2D and 3D, database management, multimedia management, right? Subsystem activities, display system, right? So to use these, the native libraries are inbuilt in the operating system itself. The developers, they can incorporate these kind of libraries in the development, right? So all the libraries, again, in turn, which supports the kernel level operations. Then the runtime environment, that is Dalvik virtual machine. Right? Dalvik virtual machine. So here JVM and DVM. So Java virtual machine, JVM, right? Again, in turn, here it is DVM, Dalvik virtual machine, which is used to execute the code. So we will see the flow, how it has been executed, how the source code is converted into a object code, and then the object code, how it is coming into the universal, we will see in the upcoming slides. Then Here you can able to see the code, right? The code that we are giving. So here you can see the way how this Java is working. Okay, so the Java source code, whatever the code that we are typing over here, right? The Java source code will be compiled and then it is converted as a class file, that is Java bytecode. So now this Java class file, it is a universal file. It is not environment oriented. It can be run in. So that is what we are calling Java as a platform independent. Okay, so now this object code is universal. It can be executed in the any of the programming environment, right? So again, this Java programming code, again it is given to the JVM, Java Virtual Machine, right? So it is executing the code which is converted into the bytecode. So here whatever the code you are designing, you are scripting, everything, it will be converted into bytecode. Then the JVM is one end which is going to run. Whereas if you take DVM, Dalvik Virtual Machine, so here the Java code, it is compiled and then here it is converted as a class file, right? Again, this class file then converted into Dalvik bytecode, DEX file, right? So using the help of DEX compiler, right? Using the help of DEX compiler, so the class code, object code is converted into DEX code, and then the DEX code is given into the virtual machine for compilation. So why we are converting here the DEX code, in the sense, say the XML to support the XML, to support the database code, right? So with the combination of Java, we are converting everything into DEX code, and then the DEX code, it will be running, right? So the Dalvik virtual machine plays a vital role in executing the code. Okay, so you can the next slide, which is going to give the detailed information of the execution of JVM and DVM. How the Java code, right at the top, for both compiling environment, we are giving the Java code. How the Java code is converted, right? So converted into a executable. Then the next layer is application framework, right? So this application framework, which in turn gives the predefined operations, that is predefined the libraries which is connected with the native libraries, right? So the activities that you want to go, so you can invoke those function into the applications, right? Application manager, right? Application manager for a life cycle of an application. Life cycle of an application, in the sense, whenever you are installing an application, right, what need to be happen? Whenever you are uninstalling the application, what need to happen? Whenever you are opening the application, what need to be happened? Whenever you are minimizing the same application, what will need to be happen? So these are all the part of Android application lifecycle. Okay, so these activities are predefined, right? Predefined in the framework itself, right? So all the application should follow that. Okay, again, application may be classified based on the priority. Okay, so all the application, it won't be a same, right? So likewise, the application framework gives the native library support to give the functional support. And then the application layer, where the application that are installed in the Android application. So here the user developer can develop their own Android application as a APK file, and then it can be installed in the topmost layer, right? So this is the overall picture about the Android application architecture. Okay, thank you.